Welcome to a Star Wars discussion. Today our topic is going to be who was on the Ghost during the Battle of Scarif, which take place, of course, during Rogue One. I'm Thor Skywalker.
And I'm Sailor Naboo, for lack of better name choice.
Be warned that there can be, if you haven't seen Rogue One, I don't know why you're watching this, but there can be minor spoilers for the movie. We're not really going to go into too much, but anyway.
This is going to be very theory-heavy on Star Wars Rebels.
Yes. We're basically just going to run down the characters and tell you if we think they were on the Ghost or not, and if not, where they are.
Possibly discuss their fates.
Yes. First character who was obviously on the Ghost would be General Hera Syndulla, along with Chopper. And why do we know that? Chopper was seen in the movie, and Hera was referenced over the intercom system. They were asking her to the briefing room, I believe. So, clearly, both of those are on the Ghost.
Yes. The first showing of the movie, I didn't see Chopper, but I heard him. Second showing, I caught a glimpse of him.
His unmistakable voice.
Unmistakable voice. Oh, I love his grumpy voice. Interpreting Chopper is half the fun of watching Rebels.
Yeah, he sounds like he's... to me, it always sounds like he's swearing at everybody, but I don't know, maybe I'm crazy.
I don't know, as many times as they're like, Chopper! He is swearing at everybody.
Alright, the next character we're going to bring up is a character I think is no longer alive during this time, and that would be Zeb. And I say that because I think there's three main storylines in Rebels right now, as of the midway point of Season 3. You've got the Kanan, Ezra, Darth Maul, let's deal with the Sith thing, which is probably the main focus and the best part of the show. You have the formation and growth of the Rebel Alliance, which is really Hera's story. She's the one who's really all about the Rebel Alliance, and she obviously becomes the general by the time of Rogue One. And then you have the developing story with the Mandalorians, which is obviously Sabine's story. That leaves Zeb, whose only story was really, last year when we found the new homeworld, where his other people had all been, and Lasans were... Lasats, and from Lasan, sorry. So, I don't know that he has much of a story, and you had a pretty good theory that, the whole Agent Kallus thing is going to backfire. He's going to try to save Kallus, and...
Yeah, my theory pretty much consists of Thrawn is learning who Fulcrum is.
I think he already knows.
He suspects. We know he suspects. Probably already knows that Kallus is one of the Fulcrums, his leak into the Rebel Empire. The Rebels. So
the Rebel Empire.
The Rebel Empire. I'm an Empire fan, so everything's an Empire.
I know.
So we know that that's going on, and we know that Kallus has a huge connection to Zeb from their one episode adventure. So my theory is that Thrawn will discover Kallus, and in turn, this will result in a tragic but beautiful end to Zeb.
I think that's great. I think it would be great.
I think it's great, and I think it might result in possibly Kallus then seeking retribution immediately, and maybe we'll get the death of Thrawn out of it too. Could give that closure to Star Wars fans down the line. Go, well, why isn't he here? Why isn't he there?
That famous question.
Because he's gone.
Just because somebody is not in the movies means they have to be dead. But discussion for another time.
Big universe.
It is a huge universe, and not everything was seen in those 3 2-hour movies. You didn't see every aspect of the Rebel Alliance or the Empire. But moving on, let's talk about Kanan and Ezra. I think it's obvious neither one are on the Ghost at the time. I think it's obvious they're no longer with the Rebel Alliance, and I think that's because Kanan is dead and Ezra has moved on to the dark side. Maybe still with Maul, who was alive.
I think Ezra might go partially into turning, but I think he and Kanan might end together.
I kind of hope so, because
we've seen such a strong brotherly bond between them.
Ezra going dark side is too much like Anakin going dark side on Obi-Wan. I hope they both go out as heroes together. I have a feeling... I know for a certain Kanan is going to die. It wouldn't make sense, because he is a true Jedi. And if you want to be a purist, at the time of A New Hope, there should only be Obi-Wan and Yoda as the only Jedi.
Another big hint we had into the fact that those two are not around anymore, it was Bail Organa talking to Mon Mothma.
Yeah, they were clearly looking for another Jedi. Obviously...
Yeah.
There's no other Jedi around, so let's go find your other Jedi friend.
I believe this also speaks to the fate of Ahsoka Tano. I think she's most likely dead or hasn't resurfaced and is just lost somewhere that they obviously don't know. Just because, who's your first choice as Bail Organa when you have a connection to Ahsoka Tano? Who is your first choice to send ObiWan Kenobi? Wouldn't it be Ahsoka Tano, who was almost a Padawan of him as Obi-Wan as well?
Yeah.
She was almost jointly looked after by Obi-Wan and Anakin. So the first choice would have been to send her, someone who immediately would have the connection. Second choice could have been
Kanan, who Obi-Wan Kenobi would remember probably as Caleb Doom, a Padawan of Depa Billaba. They met briefly, if I'm remembering right, at the start of the book of New Dawn. So clearly, you would send Kanan,
and third choice would have been even Ezra,
who has Jedi training and
who's at least been trained,
Yeah.
who's seen Obi-Wan from the old recordings.
yeah.
I mean, though not being around, he put his own adopted daughter at risk sending her.
But interesting enough, he was sending another Skywalker child to Obi-Wan, as if like, hey,
Yes.
now you got two to choose from, or you can train them both, or do whatever you need to do.
I need to protect them. I'm going to send them to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
But honestly, she wouldn't have been my first choice to send if I'm sending
No.
to recruit.
No, you would send Ahsoka if she
If
was
she was
somehow
around.
had come back.
Which is sad at the same time.
Well, maybe she hasn't come back yet. Maybe she comes back in the next show. I don't think Dave Filoni is done with Ahsoka. I don't think she is.
No, I think they have to run her full arc. There needs to be a beginning, middle, and end to her story.
You could argue her fighting Vader was the end of her story.
No, but it needed to be. That wasn't a clean end, though. Her walking into a tunnel at the end doesn't give us that closure.
All right, that leaves one member of the Ghost Crew, that being Sabine Wren. I personally think she will very much still be alive, but she will not be on the Ghosts at the time. I think she's going to be off doing her own Mandalorian thing, which is, we're getting the beginnings of it, of course, right now in Rebels. I think she's going to be a big part of, a future show, which I personally believe will take place after Return of the Jedi. Whatever, show comes along after Rebels, which I think they could call Bounty Hunters or Mandalorians, takes place after the Empire collapses and the Rebellion is trying to reform the New Republic. You got a lot of gray area that you could do with mercenaries and bounty hunters in that time.
I also think it's going to be a Sabine show. I also think it's going to be Mandalorians or bounty hunters, but I think that it might take place more of a mirroring to the at times of episodes 4, 5, and 6, almost like they did in Lost Stars, where you follow a different character's path, where it doesn't necessarily have to shoot past Luke and Han and everyone else, but it could be showing what somebody else is doing during the same time, fighting the rebellion on a different front, a different area, or possibly just switching to bounty hunting and doing that. I mean, that could be its own thing. She could occasionally see Boba Fett, look at him as a mentor figure for a little while, maybe be the one who actually painted his iconic armor. But only time will tell on that.
Could be. Well, I think we've pretty much covered it. So that's our theory. We think Hera and Chopper will be the only two who are still on the Ghost at the time of Rogue One.
Sad but true.
And we have a pretty dark future for a lot of our characters.
Oh,
And
yeah.
a bright one for Sabine.
Yes.
I think she's going. I personally think Sabine will be the big holdover from this show. She has a big future ahead of her in Star Wars. I'm not sure any of the other characters do.
Yes, but introducing Jedi always had a bleak looking end.
Yeah.
Because Luke is the hope for the future, so other Jedi being around almost
doesn't make
tarnishes
sense.
that reputation. Yeah. So, I mean, that's going to be all from us today.
If you liked our video, feel free to subscribe. We try to do a lot of theory videos and reviews and such. And please comment below, give us a thumbs up, whatever.
Ask questions, you can always get back to you with some answers.